especially in the black community. But try to stay in community, be with people, and push forward.
Hmm. So, Henry, could you tell us a little bit about you and what are you doing and as a city councilor at large? Because
Yes.
we have another election
Yes.
coming up in September.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, honored to be here with you, Miss Priscilla. I know I came last year before I was elected, and had the opportunity now to be here as an elected official. And me a little bit about me. I was born in Dominican Republic, came to Boston at a young age, at the age of 3. Grew up in Mission Hill. Proud product of Alice Taylor BHA Apartments in Mission Hill. And I often say that gave me the opportunity to not just stay here in the city, but thrive here in the city. Access to our Boston public schools, our public libraries, our public parks, and have dedicated my life to service. I've dedicated my life to my community, starting in Mission Hill, running the summer program, the after school, the mentoring program there. And I think ever since graduating college, I've had the opportunity and the honor to be able to work in city politics. And I've gotten to the level right now where I'm a Boston City Councilor at large, representing the entire city. It's truly an honor. I love my work. I love my job. And as I said, even last time when I came here, when I was running, my number one priority is going to be our youth. I really care about our youth. I'm someone that benefited from having so many mentors, loving adults, taking a chance on me and investing in me, and I want to make sure that I'm using my platform now as an at-large city councilor to do the same for our young people across the whole city, and particularly as a Dominican immigrant and as a black man who grew up here in Roxbury. Definitely want to have a focus on our black and brown kids here in the city of Boston. So, I'm 1 year in a few months, and I think there's a lot of growth for me to be able to do. I think that's part of the job. But also, I love the work that I've done. I love the people that I've been able to bring in and connect with, and looking forward to, finishing out this term.
Okay. Let's hear a little bit about you, Vinny.
So I'm born and raised in the city of Lawrence, and I actually I see a lot of myself in Henry. So I grew up a dual sport athlete. I played both football and baseball, and that was my village, and I actually got told walking in here that's rare to play both of those dual sports. So that gave me a unique perspective as I came in here today, because I've been realizing how big my village was able to grow because of the fact that I played those two very different sports. And a lot of people connected with me because of those sports, but also really they were able to learn more about who my personality was through those sports. And I decided to take on entrepreneurship when COVID happened, and that led me into absolutely everything under the sun. And one day I woke up and athletes were able to profit off name, image, likeness. And I truly feel like I developed a platform for myself and a brand strong enough where I can represent the everyday athlete, because I know exactly what they went through before, that wonderful thing came that has still this
What is
stigma.
it that athletes can make money now, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I remember that bridge was coming along, like, for tennis players. I'm a tennis player.
Okay.
It's just like there's ways for us to get to the bag today, but they're holding this back because they said you couldn't make no money as a college athlete.
Exactly.
And so now that opportunity allows us to actually grow as a person and do what we want to do. So
Exactly.
I really do like that change.
And I think that I've pretty much found my place in not only the industry, but really the world through understanding that. I think that it still has this title as the Wild Wild West, and I believe that it shouldn't be the Wild Wild West. Like, it took 100 years for them to decide to, hey, let's start allowing these athletes to monetize while we're making billions of dollars off their name, their image, their likeness, their jersey sales, their ticket sales, revenue, and broadcasting rights. Why not do exactly what college is for? Why don't we take these athletes and why don't we guide them in a way where they can understand how big their platform truly is when they get out of school? Let's not just use them while we're here for the moment. Let's be able to actually develop these kids, these young adults, to grown men, to fathers, to husbands, to people who serve in our community that are able to impact, to take the opportunity that they were given to impact the masses that aren't going to go to college. And, you know, that's where I find myself right now. And that's why I feel like it's great that I'm sitting down with you guys, because I'm actually in the process of working to transfer to Bunker Hill to be a collegiate athlete, to still pursue that dream. And once again, I thought it would have been the other sport of the two, football, for so long. But when I decided to pursue opening that door of baseball, once again, I seen my village pop up again, and that was truly heartwarming for me, because just like the city of Boston, the city of Lawrence is going through a lot of tough times as well, and we need our residents to unite and, you know, really stand up and start asking questions and stand up for what we believe in, but also what's right. You know, a lot of us feel silenced, and a lot of us feel you know, I seen that Mac Hudson, I believe it was, used the word indoctrinated, you know, and it's a shame, because our communities have so much power, and I look at these athletes as role models in the community that are really diamonds in the rough that we have yet to really teach, to transform, to be able to elevate who they are and create an impact in their communities.
That was well said. So like, what do you want? What do you want out of like being an athlete? You know, having that mixed background and like coming from Lawrence. Like, what do you want to see like change from your neighborhood, like from your city? Like, what's something that Lawrence needs that maybe Boston has, or maybe something that Lawrence has and Boston doesn't? You know, what's something that like you're seeing just from like having that like bounce of like travel? You know,
I'm glad you asked me that question, because like I truly feel like there's a lot of things where the city of Lawrence lacks, where the city of Boston has. And I've actually been keeping very close attention, where it seems like some of the small things that the city of Lawrence does have can be able to really be highlighted to start strategically uniting our citizens. Like,
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of information out there that our residents aren't able to really find out, and it's really a matter of the people in position to get that information out. I think I'd like to see a lot more of community outreach and just programs dedicated to educating, but specifically taking the time to reach our residents one-on-one. I think, you know, this media is so built up in the social media that, you know, a post and a lot of these things that aren't actually deserving to the people. I think our people deserve to know what's going on, and I think being able to take the time and understand who our neighbor is really powerful.
Yeah, we do need that full transparency in Boston, at least. Like, I see that a lot of our city officials and leaders are trying to be more transparent with like posting more on social media, or trying to be more active in the community. And like, I think all the people do appreciate that. Like, we do see you guys, like, you're out there and you're posting the updates, and even some of you guys even are posting like new bills or like issues you're solving in that moment, like letting people know like, hey, like, I'm not just sitting around in this seat, like I'm actually doing something with it. Like, I feel like that's what really like gets people's vote, but not only that, but like gets people to support you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not just sitting around playing chess or just drinking with my friends or whatever. Like, I'm sitting in this like city councilor seat making a difference for you and like for you and for everybody, you know? It's like, I really do appreciate, you know, seeing somebody like me up there. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Wes, you know, you and I go way back.
Yeah, man, you went to Beacon, man. Like, how'd you end up in Beacon? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I graduated from the Tobin School in Mission Hill.
My mom was a teacher at Tobin. You probably knew her. That's crazy.
Okay, I probably do. Yeah, that's what. You know, I was honor roll student, valedictorian in my 8th grade graduation, and felt like I wasn't challenged. Right, felt like I wasn't the smartest kid, but felt like I wasn't challenged, and I saw, maybe some of the people are familiar with the show Zoe 101
Yeah.
back in the day. And, it was a boarding school. They were having fun. They were not in class. They were just hanging out with friends. And, I looked at that and I said, that could be me. Started just Googling boarding schools in Massachusetts, boarding schools in the United States, and applied. I applied to 12, on my own. Got rejected from all 12.
It'd be like that sometimes, bro. I'm sorry.
It was, right? Like, I had, I had straight A pluses and A's, and I felt like I didn't get considered. And once I started digging into that, there was and got connected to Beacon Academy through a program director. The Beacon Academy explained to me, all the education that, Boston Public Schools were missing, right? What we're learning in 5th grade, other kids are learning in 3rd grade
Right.
across the country, right? And I think Beacon Academy convinced me because, right, I think it took convincing to give out 1 year. And in that year, was able to just really study how I am, right? How do I approach work? How do I approach homework? How do I approach my responsibilities? And how I manage my time. And I, going to Beacon Academy, was able to apply to 10 boarding schools, and got into, I think, all of them.
Okay,
And,
man. Yeah.
And just had the opportunity to do that. But I often say that my goal was to stay here in Boston.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted a high education here in the city of Boston. I got into, I believe, the Burke School. I was placed in the Burke. And then I took the exam schools to try to get into one of the exam schools and got into the O'Brien. And, but, I felt like I wanted to be challenged. I knew I was a city kid at heart, and I knew I wanted to give back to the city of Boston. But I also wanted, what's best for myself. And growing up as a Dominican immigrant in a Dominican household, the only thing that was really emphasized and my only duty was to take education seriously. And, having the opportunity to go to an independent boarding school in Maine broadened my horizons. It was the first time I was, I think I had classmates that were white. And, I think throughout my childhood, the only white interactions that I had with people was my teachers. And, just being able to go to a school where I had state-of-the-art facilities, truly felt invested in. And in return, I invested back. I always say that. I woke up every day at that school and invested back into that school because I felt invested in. And, now as a Boston City Councilor and chair of education on the Boston City Council, I'm traveling across the whole city to different schools, middle schools, elementary schools, high schools. And a lot of our schools need investment. And
Why are they closing so many schools?
So I think, there's many reasons for that. I think first, we've seen historically over the last 10 years, I think enrollment down, right? I think families are leaving the city.
Enrollment down, but the budget keeps going up. How you figure that?
So the needs are increasing, right? We have an influx of, migrant students. Our students are not reading and writing at the levels that they need to. So there needs to be more investments into that. Needs more programming into that. So the needs are up, even though the enrollment may be down. And that's why you're seeing those investments increase. But I think that's also a question that the Boston City Council is asking themselves as a body, right? We're investing so much into our Boston public schools, and are we seeing the return on those investments? And quite frankly, I think many of us are not seeing that, right? I had the opportunity to go to the Blackstone School, which I graduated from, and it's the same. Teachers have to put up curtains for walls. Bathrooms may not be working, and
To me, I just don't understand. Help me understand it. Why is the budget continuing to go up every year, but the quality of the students' lives isn't any better, and a lot of the students aren't even going to school. So I don't understand the cost. Like, why is everything going up? They're closing schools, so I guess that would be a savings of money there. I don't understand.
Yeah, so actually, even with this budget, right? I mean, this current budget that we're seeing right now, because of some of those closures, we've been able to reinvest some of that money into other schools and other programs. Ms. Priscilla, I understand it. These are the same questions we're asking BPS, right?
That's why we need an elected school committee.
Yeah, and I'm in support
That's
of that.
one of the reasons why we need an elected school committee.
Yeah, no, I'm in support of that. I think, we need to be intentional about how we take that approach, but I am in support of an elected school committee and have been, since running. But I think people need, there's a disconnect between students, parents, teachers, and we really need to increase our family engagement piece in order to really fulfill and reach the needs that, we need to get to at our Boston Public Schools. And I would say that, I think with the absentee, I think if you're looking at the last 10 years, yes. But if you're looking even the last 2 years, we've made tremendous efforts to try to get our students back and come back to schools, and you're seeing some of those trends go up. That's not saying we're nowhere near where we need to get to, but I do believe that we're being very intentional about how we're approaching the students who are not currently engaged, and I think that's a big piece of connecting with the family, being able to have relationships with family, being able to have relationships in different languages, right? Especially with our immigrant influx in students. So I think we're taking necessary steps. I think when you're trying to fix a historically broken system, it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, it's going to take investment, and we're going to continue doing that. I think I really care about our youth here in the city of Boston. I do not think that our Boston public schools are currently meeting the needs of all of our students, but I do believe that we're heading in the right direction.
What do you think about White Stadium?
Yeah, so this is this is a very for lack of a better term, I think controversial topic, right? In the sense that you have many people who are in support of it, you have many people who are opposed to it, and I'm hearing from both sides. I've been on the record of supporting this project, and I know that gets community, the people who are opposed to the project, and look at me like, why are you doing that? First, my number one priority is youth. I used to go to the White Stadium in 6th grade, 7th grade, and it's the exact same
It looks exactly
condition.
the same as we was kids, man.
And it was terrible back then, right?
Yeah.
I think any type of investment we can make into our youth is good. I think we have here who's an athlete, right? We want to make sure that we're setting up our athletes and our students up for success. I think that this project does that, and I think that moreover than all of that, right? I'm in support of the project. I'm in support of a community process, and I think sometimes the city, historically, not just now in this administration, right, bypasses some of that community process. So, I constantly push the administration, constantly push my colleagues to try to create more efforts to not just check a checkbox, right, of saying we're listening to the community or we're hosting a meeting, but what are we actually taking from that, from those meetings and implementing into the project?
I think we have a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jamal calling. How y'all doing?
Good morning, Jamal. How you doing?
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Peace and blessings.
I just wanted to tap in with this because this is something, as you know, Priscilla, it's been frustrating me for many years. And some of these, like the young folks, not just, Councilor Santana, who is younger than me, but, now he's in this position, but some of these other young men who are on the thing. I just want to put this out as a challenge to everybody. And it's something that I use myself. So in Boston, we have a thing where I think a lot of people are talking about things that they're not necessarily specialists in. I heard somebody make a point that we had somebody on here who's an athlete, for instance, right?
Yes, sir.
I know very little about athletics, okay? So you don't want me to try to dunk your touchdown. You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
All right. So these are the same types of things that, in my view, are now happening with issues of education, economics, reparations, black history, where now we have people who are, quote unquote, leading the charge.
And don't know nothing about it.
I don't want to say don't know nothing.
Not enough. Not
Yeah, not enough.
That's the right terminology for it. Not enough.
Or not,
Yeah,
not the correct
They know
credentials.
something.
Like, I think
They have limited knowledge, and their knowledge does not exist for a long time. And I'll end with this. I'll give you a good example. Y'all are all at the radio station right now, and somewhere around you there's an old guy named Pastor Bruce Wall, right?
Yeah.
Now y'all are there right now, but you don't know him like I know him because we go back to the 80s, right? So there's some sort of thing Like, y'all know him now as a good dude, but I've known him to be a good dude since the 80s. So his track, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, he has a track record.
Exactly. And a track record that some people who are coming new on the scene would not know.
Right.
Right? So we don't know who is, quote unquote, a stand-up guy. We don't know who is the charlatans and the shenanigan makers. And so at some point, particularly for you young men, Priscilla, please give me the contact information. Me and Henry, Councilor Santana, we're overdue anyway. But please, what I would like to do is just show people some other information historically, things that are out there, not just coming from me. Some videos, some newspaper articles, all that. People could look at it and then they make their own,
Yeah.
Conclusion.
I just want to share information. So that's it. God bless y'all.
God bless you too.
God
Thanks
bless.
for calling, Jamal.
All right, y'all have a good day.
All
Peace.
right. Bye-bye.
So I got a question. So you say you're the chair of the education board,
Education committee.
education committee. What is that?
Yeah, so we have a council president, and every year when the council president is elected, we have a bunch of committees on the Boston City Council, and she appoints each councilor to different committees. I specifically asked for education and for public safety and criminal justice, just because, again, I really care about our schools, I really care about our youth, but I also really care, and I'm also the chair of public safety and criminal justice, because we, again, as a Dominican immigrant black man who grew up in public housing, I
Our
really
people
care about,
get thrown in jail and prisons and are in the court system more than anybody else.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, just want to make sure that I'm leading in that front of the Boston City Council. I think, as Jamal said, I don't try to assume that I know everything. I want to do this work in partnership with community. That's why I reach out to community members, to residents, community leaders. I bring them into City Hall. I come into the community and don't pretend that I know everything. And in fact, the people who do know everything are the people with the lived experience who have done the work for years, right?
That's right. Because
And-
we the people, we have the power. Good
Absolutely.
morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sister Priscilla. How are you?
I'm good.
I am calling to comment about the subject that we're talking about, especially about the youth and the schools, our PPS schools, not being able to meet the needs of our youth.
Who's
This
this?
is the
Dan? Is
reason
this
why
Danny
I'm
Santana?
happy.
Santana.
Is this Danny Santana?
Yes, of course.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to hear your voice.
Awesome. So I've been paying attention to the conversation this morning, what you guys are talking about, and I'm excited that you guys are having this conversation because this is what I've been promoting at Asmar Station for the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So this is most important that we're having this conversation because our youth, the schools are not meeting the needs of our youth at these schools.
They
You
sure
know,
are.
and our youth are going through a lot of trauma, and they don't have enough staff who are educated enough to approach and engage these youth to deal with these issues.
Mm-hmm.
True.
That's real, brother.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, shout out
That's
to
right.
Danny.
You know,
He's
so-
doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
Me and my staff out here at Asthma, we are here doing it. We created the Asthma Youth Violence Collaborative. We got a lot of support. We got a lot of people that are reaching out from different states that are coming down in different towns. And right now, there's a lot of focus on the youth needs in the city of Boston. People are really starting to acknowledge that our schools are failing our children. You know,
Not only are our
last year-
schools failing our children, this system is failing our children. 18-year-olds that are aged out of foster care, 80% of them wind up in prison. That does not.
Yeah.
That is insane. That doesn't make any sense. The education system in the city is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. They need to revamp it, look at it, take it apart, and fix it. And one of the ways that they can stop doing that is by an elected school committee. They can start at the top. I mean, we've had an appointed school committee for 30 years, maybe more, and what hasn't gotten us? Worse and worse and worse. I mean, there's a lot that we're in an election year. And we have people that are running for mayor, people that are running for city councilors at large, and we need to wake up as a people and get with the program. We need to identify these people who are running for office and be up in their face.
Yeah, and make sure that they're out there representing us correctly.
Because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Being sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick.
No, I'm serious. It's ridiculous. Hold on, Danny. I think we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Priscilla.
Good morning, Pastor Kelly.
No, Domingo's DeRosa, the one and only.
Oh, good morning, Domingo. How you doing?
Good morning, Domingo.
Oh, how you been?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just listening to the conversation on, what's going on in the city.
Mm-hmm.
We got tons of things to talk about, and
I
how do we
know.
go about actually addressing these issues? Because these are ongoing conversations. This is nothing new. Third grade reading level has been the status quo for over 30 years. Third grade math level. I mean, we can go on and on and on. We had 2 individuals shot last night by OP.
Yeah, over there in Roxbury. I heard about that.
Yeah, we've had a construction site at White Stadium that does not reflect the job residency policy that we have on the books. I mean, like Jamal said, a lot of us who've been here, who've been advocating, who've been speaking up, seem to be side as if our opinions and our concerns are on deaf ears. As you know, Priscilla, you've been at this.
We did this. This is a great conversation here. I got some good people on here. You know what we need to do? We really need to come together and have a talk, some type of town hall meeting, and let these bring the elected officials and talk and tell them what we want. This doesn't make any sense. The stuff that's going on in this city.
Priscilla, we've done that. We've done that. We went to the ballot in 2021. We voted for an elected school committee. 4 years later, that
We still don't have
sitting
one.
on the table.
We still don't have
again,
one.
these ears are deaf. It doesn't matter.
So we got to remove some people. That's what I say.
I got a question. So this
I say
elected
we
school committee,
remove
right?
some people.
This elected school committee. What's the difference between what elected school committee could do for the people and like your educational board that you're already on? Like, what's the difference between like the board that you're already?
I am not on that board. So I am not on the school board.
No, not the school board, but
So
what is it called?
So I'm the chair.
The chair of the education committee.
Education
it has
committee.
nothing to do with the.
It doesn't
the
have
school
nothing
board,
to do with like what schools actually do with their money or nothing like that.
No,
Like,
so I mean, what we're talking about is the appointed school committee that we have right now,
Yeah.
which is appointed by the mayor of Boston.
Okay.
How many members are appointed there?
I think nine.
Nine out of how many? How many sit total?
So 9 in
Nine.
total.
9 out of
and
9?
all 9 are
Oh,
appointed.
really?
Hold
So
on.
it's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship.
Hold on.
We have a school committee, the only school committee in the state of Massachusetts that's selected.
That's
Every
appointed.
other
So
state
we have
now
one
has
already.
an election
Yeah.
process to hold people accountable.
Hello,
We're not
wait.
able to hold anyone accountable on that school committee because, again,
They're
they
appointed.
report to the mayor.
Right.
Yeah,
Hold on.
because-
Hold on. I think we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
It's getting deep on here.
Good morning, Minister Priscilla. It's Karen.
Good morning, Pastor K.
And good morning, everybody else
peace
there.
and blessings.
So as I'm listening, good morning. So as I'm listening, I'm thinking to myself, you're right on all your points about the failure of the Boston public school system, and it needs to be revamped. And I would say, right on the local level, that's what pertains to us. That's what's most important. But in all honesty, I think revamping a system that was never meant to educate us in the first place is just kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a pig. It's still a pig. So
Yes, my sister. Support. We need to change the whole system completely.
because quite honestly, it was meant to harm us, but it does black population, meaning essentially white folks. It doesn't do them any good to continue to be taught the racist falsehoods that their ancestors were taught. They think they're kind of, they think they're getting over on us because it makes us look bad. But in truth, the system is designed to keep poor whites in ignorance and to keep black people as having, a negative sense about ourselves, meaning like our history began, with the Mayflower. That's nothing could be further from the truth, but that's not taught, and it's deliberately that's not taught. That's all.
And that's the point to the elected school committee.
Thank you, Pastor K.
Thank you.
And that's the point to the elected school committee because you create the curriculum. I sat on the Concord Carlisle School Committee for 3 years, and 90% of the curriculum was approved by the school committee. So to rewrite the curriculum is the important. To her point, we keep teaching the same history over and over.
But the other thing is,
same curriculum.
It's no good for children in Massachusetts to be taught, let's say, correct history, and children in Florida to still be taught the same lies. That's why the country's divided.
Well, the fact that
and what's up with the thing about our kids not being allowed to be taught Black History Month stuff no more? Like,
Black history should be every day, first of all, and maybe the Department of Education does need to be dismantled. I don't have all the answers, but I know one thing: we need to start training our own kids. We need to start teaching our own
absolutely.
kids. We need to start homeschooling our own kids. We don't need this system the way it's set up now. For real.
Well, that's the point. That's
No,
the point
I
of what
agree.
the White House.
I mean, we can do it if we come together. Who say we can't do it? Who says we can't create our own school a department for our kids?
Yeah, every state has its own school department, DESE, and every city has their own school committee that works around those parameters. The state funding that comes in is to help offset some of the costs. Again,
Well, they got all these
is
charter schools out here that are confusing our kids. They got METCO. They have all these other school systems. Why can't we have our own school system for us, by us?
Yes, talking about that. Why are the charter schools and the Boston schools separate? Okay, I'm having
And
a
the
problem
money
right
from
now.
the Boston public school goes to the charter schools. That's insane. And then if the child fails,
you got to understand how the funding is estimated.
right.
BPS has lost 10,000 students because of the failures the school has put out there. Charter schools are private entities that get funding from the federal government to offset their costs and from the state.
Right, and from the city as well.
The city doesn't have any money. The city doesn't create any funding for the school system. This is why.
But I know, but it's in the school budget though. The charter school money and the bus money, that's in the budget. That's it's all about the budget. You got to look at the budget.
The agreement, because again, I'm pro-parent. If you have the funding to send your kid to a private school, if you have the funding to send your kid to a charter school, or whatever you decide, it's up to you and your family what's going to fit you. So there's a misunderstanding on how this funding travels from one to the other. If BPS doesn't increase enrollment, from the state and the federal government gets less and less because of those numbers. So they sell us this narrative that we're losing money in BPS because kids are going to charter school. No, the reality is we're losing students because of the failures within the system.
All right, hold on. Hold on. I believe we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, this is Jamal. I'm back.
What up, Maul?
Well,
welcome back, Carter.
Yeah. Well, first of all, shout out to everybody who's called. Specifically, Mrs. Karen Wall, because she's one of the smartest ladies I've known. Forever. You know what I mean? Some of this stuff we've already done. Yeah. So, for instance, let me just give you my little example. During COVID, there was a bunch of black parents who were like, wow, we're COVID, we don't know what to do with our kids, okay? I created this thing called the Conscious Curriculum. And I just did it like with a collection of YouTube videos and other things that are readily available. I still have this. I have a book list of over, 100-something books, videos, all this type of stuff. So once again, back for these young men and anybody who's available, no, the BPS is not going to give this to you, right? And as long as it's age appropriate, because there are some things on, for instance, if y'all have heard of a movie called Spook Who Sat by the Door,
Yes.
right? You might not want to show that to your, 5 or 6 year old. 'Cause there's some things in there that might not be age appropriate. But other than that, the book list, the movie list, like all of this has been done, and we don't need to keep trying to reinvent the wheel. We can actually educate ourselves. As long as you can read, write, spell, do basic arithmetic, you should be able to navigate the world for yourself and be able to find where all of this other treasure trove of information lies. We're on a Christian radio station. There are some people who take a basic understanding of the Bible, and they're satisfied with that in their personal relationship with the Lord and Savior. And then other people do a deep dive, and they go to school, and they become theologians. And, so this is what I'm suggesting for our people. If we are truly concerned, as we say we are concerned, with the black thing, then we got to do a deep dive into the black thing and all of the things that encompass the black thing. We have to get a grasp on history, economics, all.
So
Let me shut
Jamal, this is a lot more. We have to get into this a lot more. But I appreciate you calling in. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut up again. Pardon me. I'm hanging up.
Thank you, Jamal.
God bless y'all.
Yeah, you too.
God bless you.
Okay.
Yo.
Henry, Wes.
Can I bring it back?
About, Henry. These are the conversations that you and I have on a regular basis.
So I just want to add a little and run it back. So we talked about Desi a little bit, and I was truly astonished when I just heard that 9 out of 9 members are appointed. That absolutely makes no sense to me, and I truly feel like there's a reason that I didn't know that. Like, I've been digging into a lot of research on just state receivership and just the power of Desi and how the city of Lawrence can also fight from getting out of being under state receivership. And it was just passed into law that it's now going to be a majority appointed board, and I don't think that represents our community. I think we got to continue asking the questions on why do they not let us represent ourselves? Why don't they want us to talk to the people who walk and are actually on these streets? Because there's a reason that there's miscommunication there, because they understand what happens when you do empower each other and you actually learn about our history, so you're actually able to take action and seeing that history repeats itself. And I got this book here right now, and Lawrence is the home of the 1912 Bread and Roses strike, and that was really just something that happened 40 years after the Pemberton Mills collapse. And it was an incident where about 600 people died working in a labor factory. And Lawrence in the Merrimack Valley is very known for its mills. It's, they're called the mill cities. And it took, about 50 years, and 50 years after, which is still 110 plus years from where we are today in 1912, it took immigrants from about 20 different countries to come together and really stand up and stop what was going on. And they stood up, they walked out, and they protested for not only their rights, but for everybody else down the road in history. But what they were able to do is they stopped production, and they were like, listen, you guys are going to understand us one way or another. And what they did is they all came together. They were singing each other's songs in different languages, marching up and down the streets. And I think that's very powerful. And, that's why, once again, I feel like I sit here today and, learning about that makes no sense. That's disrespectful. I feel threatened, and, I genuinely feel like the city of Lawrence is under attack because of things such as state receivership. Because once again, I'm super involved with this now in my stance in just being an activist, because from that I see it stemming into now our emergency officials, in which now they're trying to transition where the police get the fire alarm dispatch calls from where it's been successfully operated from 85 plus years to this newly dedicated police station, in which the fire union is fighting back against the fire chief on a stance to say, hey, listen, there's no reason for us to combine stations. Yes, it took you guys a month to give us the information that says, hey, yeah, it can be used as both a dispatch for in the police station, but you guys don't have to do that. And once again, like, the union wasn't able to represent themselves in that meeting, and there's this continuance of our residents and our communities being silenced. And just I believe it might have I think it was Domingos actually, he did mention, like, we are asking these questions, we are trying to stop this, but what keeps happening? We're getting silenced. So, like, what do we do? And I think the only thing for us to do is, once again, like, we need to come together and we need to realize that every voice matters. Like,
and that's why we need this radio station,
Absolutely.
WBPG-LP.
I mean,
102.9
again, you know, I'm
FM.
still here. I'm listening, and you know, a lot of the things. I'm not in favor of a lot of what's going on nationally, but the reality is what's happening. There's been decades and decades of mismanagement of funds. We're at $1.6 billion here in Boston. Over 41% of our tax dollars go into BPS, and our dropout rate for black males between 13 to 17 is at its all-time high. You know, these are things that they're not talking about. These are numbers that are being finagled to make it look as if we're providing a quality of service, and we know it's not. It's not just the old building. It's the old textbook. It's the old mindset. Remember, Boston's Teachers Union has the only contract in the city of Boston that does not require the staffing to live in Boston. Every other department requires you to live in Boston after 10 years of service, then you can move out of Boston. So we educate some of our greatest minds, and then we don't allow them to be a part of the process that they were a part of. I have a younger cousin who graduated from BPS, went to college, got her master's in teaching, and she had to fight to come back into Boston because of those things that are contractual. And that kills the motivation. And here's a prime example. I worked at the John Marshall School for 17 years. I worked for BCYF. 3:30, one teacher in the building outside of Boston because they were beating 3 o'clock traffic to get to Attleboro, to get to Rhode Island, to get to Taunton, to get to where they live. So how does your child who's falling behind get the services they need when 9 out of 10 teachers don't live in the city and they got to pick their kids up off the school bus?
That's a good question. That you know, that makes sense. I mean, something has to be done. I mean, we can't continue to keep doing this. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I know one thing: we need to grab people like Jamal and Domingos, and we need to bring some other folks to the table, because what's going to happen? You know, this is an election year. This is an election year for a new city councilors and a new mayor. So I'm
yes,
like,
we are desperately in need of a new man. Because God knows that this man fucked up this city.
Guys, can we go back to asking questions to the people who are here for a second? Can we go back to the people who are here for a second? I appreciate everyone calling. Let's go back to the people who are here for a second.
So I'd like to ask Henry, after hearing all that, you know, what is the education committee? What do they do? What are they? How can they help this situation, or can they help it at all?
You mean in terms of what I chair on the Boston City?
Yeah.
So all that means, I just want to clarify. So every city councilor has committees that they're responsible for, meaning whenever we have our weekly council meetings every Wednesday, whatever filings we make, which is whether it's a hearing order, an ordinance, not a resolution, but the other things, right? The hearing orders and the ordinances, they get placed into different committees. So if someone was to file, a hearing order to see how we're doing on transportation with BPS, that hearing order will come to my committee. That means I'm responsible for hosting that conversation. That's really what it means. I think I take it a step further of, like, because that's the area and the issue that I'm focused on, that means that also in the outside of City Hall, I'm trying to visit our schools. I'm trying to, go to after school programs. I'm trying to just be with youth and hear from them, right? And then take that back. So, I think the responsibility as a chair of a committee is just to be able to host the hearing itself.
What comes out after the hearing? I mean, we have all these hearings, and don't nothing come up out of them.
That's
Now,
not
what
true.
do you guys
That's
do?
not-
What do you guys
no,
do?
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think we do have many hearings. I will say that.
A lot of
All over the city.
But listen, I mean, my first hearing order on the Boston City Council last February was to introduce mixed income social housing, right? And I'm a product of public housing. I really believe in it. I also don't believe that poor people should just be placed in the area, right? I believe in mixed income communities to be able to thrive. I know that I also grew up in public housing. That meant that when something was broken, it wasn't getting fixed the next day, right? It was getting fixed the next month, if that, right? So I believe everyone deserves high quality of housing, and mixed income social housing does just that. We held many hearings on mixed income social housing. We held 3, right? And those were conversations for the city council to learn, for community to come in and put their feedback. And then, just a few months ago, there was a $110 million investment or a $110 million fund, rotating fund that was created that can be used for mixed income social housing. So that's within 1 year. So I'm not saying, I understand we have many hearings, and sometimes depending on the counselor, they may not want to move forward with that idea. I think the hearing is to just be able to hear and educate ourselves, and then see how we can potentially implement that in the city of Boston.
So are you saying that there was a program that was implemented for $100 million for this type of housing?
So it's not just specifically for mixed income social housing, but the $110 million will be used for mixed income social housing. We're going to see it over there already in Charlestown with the projects out there. And we're gonna, they're tearing it down. It's already started, and we're building more affordable housing, but also with market rate housing in there too, right? To be able to subsidize some of that affordable housing, to have high quality housing, to have high amenities. I believe everyone should have access to those amenities that everyone has, right? So that 110.
What about 50-year deed restrictions?
I'm sorry?
The 50-year deed restrictions.
What about it?
How is that? How does that make sense? To give someone a 50-year deed restriction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about,
I mean, there's units now in that people cannot purchase, refinance. I mean, like sell, refinance.
when they're doing through the city.
Yeah, I mean
And that's part of, that's a big part. I think, right, home ownership is key. And we want to make sure that, especially our black and brown people here, have access to home ownership. I think that's right when you're talking about the $250,000 wealth to the $8 per wealth per person. Home ownership is a big part of that. And the city has done tremendous efforts to try to get people into home ownership. I think we also need to do greater efforts to make sure that we can get people into generational wealth. And I think that's where we're lacking right there with that. I'm going to be continuing, but this fund will also, because of the advocacy of my brother in service Brian Worrell on the Boston City Council, this fund will also help people become homeowners, and again on that pathway to wealth.
So, like, as a city councilor, can you change the school funding to give it to the low income areas that need it more? Is that something you could do, like shift the funding to schools that need it more than other schools? I mean, you went to so many different schools in the city, and including Beacon, which I didn't explain too much, but just from having all those backgrounds, I feel like you really know the city's education, you really been through it, in your own feet, not even just me telling you my own experience. I could do that all day, but you actually been through it, so it's you really see what we need. So how can you take your position and utilize that to actually give the places we came from a change,
That's a great
what can
question.
we do with that?
That's a great question. Again, I've been I didn't know English or Spanish growing. I had a speech impediment, so I was at the Blackstone School because I had teachers who spoke Spanish and English to me. Right. I went to the Dearborn School. I went to the Tobin. I started at the Winship over in Brighton. Then also had the opportunity to go to Beacon Academy and then an independent boarding school. So I've had high quality education. I've had low quality education, and I've had everything in between. The thing here, and I think it goes back to the elected school committee versus the appointed school committee, the Boston City Council, at the end of the day, the BPS budget gets introduced to us. We get to ask questions. We get to have conversations with the superintendent and her team, right? The thing is, at the end of the day, we only get to vote yes or no on the Boston Public School budget. With the operating budget, right, that's going to be announced over the next few weeks by the mayor. The city council has the power to be able to actually move line items from different departments to different departments and fund different line items. And especially as long as we have a majority, at least the majority of the city council, 9, we can override the mayor, right? So that's what the operating budget. We have the power. I don't think I think we've had that power for 3-4 years. That was before I was there. We have yet to be able to actually use it because you need, again, majority. You need 9 out of the 13. But there's avenues in the operating budget to actually be able to make those changes, right? We don't have those same avenues with the Boston Public School budget, and the people who do have that power is the school committee.
Yeah, the appointed school committee. That's a problem.
Who are these people? I need to meet
Nobody
them.
sees this as a problem.
No, and I think people do. I think there's a lot that goes into it. I'm in support of an elected school committee, but that doesn't mean I have concerns about an elected school committee. That means there's going to be interested groups that can come in, right? And let's say, Ms. Priscilla, right? You're running for a school committee. You can have a lot of interested groups that can come and fund you, and run your campaign.